Hey everybody, it's Mrs. C, and I'm coming to you with a video that's gonna pick up where we left off. The last thing we did was we used 2 points to find the slope of a line that would go through those 2 points. So I just want to go actually ahead a little bit. Oh, look at all that fun stuff we're missing. Okay, here we go. So if I was to ask you to find the slope, this is a review of what you already know. You would be able to do it based on a graph. But you could also do it based on the points. And so let me show you how I use these 4 problems to do a little review. So I'm going to make this number 1 a little bit bigger. And I'm going to ask you to tell me real quick, what is the slope of this line? First of all, you notice that the slope, we use the letter M, is positive. How do we know that? Because the line is going up. So I want to write that down before I forget. So I know my slope is positive. Now, all I need to know is what is the rise to the run. So what is my rise from any point that you see to the other point? And then I'm going to put that in a fraction over the run, meaning the side-to-side movement. So the rise is the vertical shift, that's the up and down, and the run is the horizontal shift, or the left and right movement. So go from any point, and if I make that a little bit bigger, when I say any point, it can be this one, or it can be this one to identify the slope. So let's go from the bottom one to the top. So what do I rise? What's my vertical movement to get level with that point? It's a movement of 1. I only have to go up 1 unit to be level with the point I'm trying to get to. And then how many over do I have to go? 1, 2. So I have a rise of 1 and a run of 2. And again, I'm a positive slope. So now if I did it in reverse, you're going to see I still go from the top now point. By reverse, I mean go from the top point and go down. So if I go from this point to this point, I would have to drop 1 and run 1, 2. It's still a vertical shift of 1 and a horizontal shift of 2, which is still going to make it a slope of 1/2. Now you'll see I already identified it's positive, and the slope is a positive 1/2. Now the other thing we learned was how to calculate the slope just given the points. And so what we could then do, actually let me just use my eraser tool, be a little bit better than trying to reverse all of my writing. All right, now we'll come back here. Let me try a different one. We know the slope of that one is 1/2. Let's try and figure out the slope of this number 2. Okay, so number 2, here we go. First thing I want to know is I want to identify point A, and we'll call this one point B. So what is the ordered pair for point A? Well, the ordered pair, point A, looks to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, a -4, 1. So -4, 1. And then point B looks to be a -2, -1. -2, -1. So we also learned how to do this algebraically using the slope formula. But before we do that, let's just repeat what we did on the last one and just find the vertical shift and the horizontal shift, and we'll actually know the slope faster than if we do it and calculate it. So if I want to go from B to A, because I like to go from the bottom point to the top point, because I just always like to have a positive rise. I like the shift to go up. And so when I go from B to A, I go up 1, 2, and then I go to the left 1, 2. So that is actually a rise to run 2 over 2. My slope is a rise of 2 and a run of 2, which you know simplifies to 2 over 2 is 1. Now the last thing I do want to note is my line going up or is it going down? It's going down. So my slope is really a -1. And that would be identified simply by this little fact. When I went up, that's positive, right? So my rise is positive over what is my run? Did I move towards the negatives or did I move towards the positives? I did a shift left, and a left shift is a negative shift, and so I have a positive rise and a negative run. Positive over negative, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. That's a lot to go over and go through when all you have to do is notice that the line it's going down, and that means it's going to be a negative slope. So I already know that the slope of this line is a -1. And so I already know when I do all my math over here, when I do all of this, I should get m is equal to a -1, and that's going to confirm what I know, and then I'm going to be done with this review, and we're going to move on to something new. So let me, that was a really big eraser tool, wasn't it? All right, it's a -4, 1. Okay. In class, we learned a formula, change in y over change in x, in order to find the slope of a line given just the points and not a graph. And in fact, I said not a graph. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, graph. We don't need to look at you because we're not using you. We're going to use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, also known as delta y over delta x, the change in y over the change in x. And so all I need to do is plug in my values, and I'm going to leave my numbers there. I'm going to change my color so you can see what I'm doing. Putting the y2 in first, that's a -1. The y1 in, which is a +1. The x2, which is a -2. And the x1, which is a -4. We're very careful when we plug these in, right? Because we notice that there's always a negative here. And sometimes, like in this case, there's a double negative. And so we have to be careful. So I'm going to get rid of right now just the delta y. Oops. Can't use the eraser tool. It brings the graph back. Okay. So I'm going to plug those in. Negative, give me my little, I'm moving over here. Okay, this is slope. -1 minus 1 over -2 minus a -4. You see that double negative here, right? We did those in class. We know we got to be careful. So a -1 minus 1, that's -2. And then a double negative is positive. So this becomes a -2 plus 4 in the denominator, and that's a +2. What is a -2 divided by 2? -1. What did we say the slope was? -1. And so that's how we get it algebraically if they don't give us a graph. Again, this was a review. I know it was fast, but if you need to do more practice, you do more practice. But we're going to move on. So let's go, where do I want to be? I want to be here, but it's all blown up. There we go. Boom. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line. I'll explain why I'm doing this. Number 1, you already know how to do this. These you could call these literal equations and solving for a given variable. You guys are really good at this. So in order to let you understand how it applies to the things we've been doing, I just want to have you do this one. So you do it. Do you know what to do? It said to write the slope-intercept form of this equation. Slope-intercept is y is equal to mx plus b. That's also known as solve for y. So in the case of this first problem you see, solve for y, get the y by itself. You know how to do that. So pause me, come back to me when you have the answer. Okay, I hope you're done. If you're not, you didn't do it, you just like to let me do all the work, that's fine with me also. So I'm going to solve for y. I'm going to minus the 3x. There I go. I'm going to be left with a -2y equal to a -3x minus 16. I'm going to divide everybody by -2, divide you by -2, divide you by -2, and I'm going to be left with y equal to, negative over negative is positive, that's 3 halves x, and a -16 divided by 2, that's a +8, plus 8. There it is. That's what they asked me to do. That's writing the equation in slope-intercept form. And here's the reason why we did that. When you're in slope-intercept form, like you saw me right before, and I'll do it again. Oh my gosh, that's a big tool too. I am just going tool crazy, aren't I? This is just silliness. Give me back my regular black. Slope-intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b, where the number that is touching the x is your slope. Look at that. So we know the slope, don't we? And then the number in the back, the constant, is your b, and that's this. So that tells me where I cross the y-axis. More information than I need right now. I don't need you to know that. I just want you to identify that the number that is touching the x when you're in the form of y equals is your slope. So we just found the slope of this equation. The slope of this equation is 3 halves. And that's something for you to really think about. That's important to know. Let's try another one. Let me use my eraser tool just to clean it up a little bit. Can you, for me, take problem number 3, and can you put it into slope-intercept form? And once you do, can you identify what the slope is? I want you to try that. Put number 3 in slope-intercept form, and after you're done with that, identify what the value of the slope of that line is. Pause me, come back to me when you're done. And I'm going to keep on going. If you paused and you're back, let's see if you got it right. You have 9x minus 7y equal to a negative 7. And you're solving for y, so you're going to minus the 9x. And that's done. And then we're going to have a negative 7y equal to a negative 9x minus 7. And we're going to divide everybody by a negative 7. I'm going to have my answer of y is equal to a positive 9/7 x plus 1. Negative 7 divided by negative 7 is a positive 1. I also asked you, that's it, you solved for y, that's in slope-intercept form. I asked you to identify the slope. What's the slope? 9/7. That's a positive 9 over 7. That's a positive slope. The line is going up, and from any point to another point it rises 9 and it runs 7. That's what we did. That's pretty easy, isn't it? I think so. All right, so this is a short video. I mean, not a lot to it. It's just a little more insight. Next video I do, I'm going to show you how to do this. So take a look at it. The next video I do, I'm going to introduce you to a little bit more work. I'm going to give you a point that a line passes through, and I'm going to tell you the slope of the line. And then I'm going to ask you to what? I'm going to ask you to write it in a form. I mean, sometimes standard, sometimes y equals mx plus b. I want you to be able to do both. Point slope form. Maybe we'll do all the forms. You're going to be able to write an equation given this information. That's going to be the next video. But until then, I'll see you on the flip side.